Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I'm super excited to be guest designing for Waffle Flower this month. I'll be using their pop-up Tropical Leaves texture die, the coordinating duotone Tropical Leaves stencil, their Hibiscus die set, and for a sentiment I have a Tropical Sentiment stamp set. I love their products. I own a ton of their dies. If you're looking for a good nesting shape die set, they have a huge variety. I'll be making 2 cards using the new products. Let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I've already cut out the flower and the centerpiece of the hibiscus. I'm using Waffle Flowers Mini Stencil Mat, adding some extra ink on the inside of the flowers using Catherine Pooler's polished ink color. I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the die cut pieces, 5 different leaves and 2 of the flowers. Now I'll start assembling them. I'll put glue on the back of the inner piece of the flower. Then I'll add the very center of the flower, just putting a little bit of glue on the end. For the background of the card, I have some white shimmer cardstock, and I added some fun stitch detail using Waffle Flowers Quilted Zigzag texture die. I love this style of die that adds just the faux stitch detail, and Waffle Flower has a wide variety available. I'll put ATG tape on the back and also some glue along the outside edge, since it is a specialty cardstock and it has all the stitch detail. Then I'll layer it on some black cardstock. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This is an American Standard A2 size card, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. Now I'll add the die cuts onto the card more on the left side, and I'll start with the leaves. I did put some thin foam dimension on the back of the flowers. I'll start with one of the palm leaves, adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. I put glue on the back except the very end of the leaf. I use my fingers to slightly curl it up for some dimension. Next, I'll add a leaf in the lower left-hand corner. I'm trying to make sure to adhere all the die cut pieces so the ends don't go off the edge of the card. Otherwise, it won't fit inside a standard A2 size envelope. If you're hand delivering the card, it doesn't matter, or you could use a larger size envelope. Next, I'll add one of the leafy branches in the upper left-hand corner. Then I'll add the final leafy branch on the right side of the 2 palm leaves. Now I'll add the final palm leaf. Once I have all 5 leaves adhered, I'll add the 2 hibiscus flowers. I'll remove the release paper and adhere them right on top of the cluster of leaves. I love the contrast of the leaves and flowers against the white and black background. For a sentiment, I'm using the Sub-Sentiments Birthday Die Cut set. There are a bunch of different sentiments on this little sheet that simply punch out. I selected Have a Special Day. These are great if you want a quick sentiment and don't feel like doing any stamping. There are tiny little tabs along the edge. I like to trim those off with a pair of scissors. I'll add some black foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in the upper right-hand corner so the very right edge is flush on the right side of the card and the left side of the sentiment will overlap some of the leaves. For embellishments, I'll add some clear jewels. 3 in the upper right-hand corner around the sentiment, and 2 underneath the hibiscus flower. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick them up, adding just a small drop of Barely Art glue, then pressing them in place. And I'm using a variety of sizes. I like the clear color since it blends into the background, but it still adds a lovely sparkle. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a little bit of sparkle to the center of the flower using Nuvo glitter drops. This is the yellow bird color. I'll add some on the very end of the centerpiece of the flowers. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The other card features a different sentiment punch out, Birthday Wishes. I love how this card turned out. Of course, now I want to go on a tropical vacation and see some beautiful hibiscus flowers. For card design number 2, I used the pop-up Tropical Leaves texture die on some craft cardstock. This is such a fun die. You can pop up the edge of all of the images, but not completely since it is still connected in the center. There are 2 stencils that coordinate with the die. Each stencil does 1/2 of the leaves and also some of the flowers. I'll line the stencil up on the background, add some tacky tape on the back side to hold the stencil in place. I noticed I didn't get the stencil lined up exactly, so I'm peeling it up to try again. I find it harder to do at an angle when I'm recording instead of just leaning over, but then you'd see my head in the video and I'd be blocking the stencil. The first ink color is Spruce from Catherine Pooler, and I'll add it to all of the leaves. I'm using Waffle Flowers Mini Stencil Mat again. This time I turned it vertical instead of horizontal. They have a larger size stencil mat, and I do own one, but I use the mini size more often since it fits better on screen when I'm recording. I don't want to get any green ink on the flowers, so I am using some of the tacky tape and covering those up. Lately, I've been using craft cardstock for stenciling and hot foiling. I love how you get a completely different look on the craft color versus white cardstock. As I move toward the top of the stencil, I'll pull off the tacky tape, cover up the other flowers so I can finish up the leaves. I have just a couple more leaves to finish. Then I'll remove the tacky tape and start with one of the flowers. I'm using Catherine Pooler's Rocking Red ink color and a shader brush from Waffle Flower. This is size 1. It's perfect for getting in those small areas on a stencil. For the other flower, I switched to Catherine Pooler's Orange Twist ink color. And after finishing the last flower, I noticed there was an end of a leaf that I covered up with the tacky tape. So I'll grab the blender brush with the green ink and fill in that tiny area at the end of the leaf. Once that area is covered, I'll remove the first stencil. Even if I don't have the background complete yet, I love the look of the green, red, and orange on the craft cardstock. And now I'll add the second stencil, making sure to line it up, add the piece of tacky tape on the back side so nothing moves. One piece of tape kept getting stuck to my finger, and it was interfering while I was trying to line up the stencil. This time I'll start with the flowers. I'll use the Orange Twist ink color. I realize there's only one of that style flower on this stencil. Now I'll switch to the other flower using the Rocking Red ink color. I did find it easier to start with the flowers this time instead of the leaves. Once I'm finished with all of the flowers, I'll use Catherine Pooler's Deck the Halls ink color for the other half of the leaves. I think this green ink color works well with the spruce color. It's just a little bit darker. It's a color combination I've been using quite a bit lately. I'm being very careful not to get any green ink on the flowers as I work my way over the stencil. I could cover up the flower areas on the stencil with some tape or some scrap paper. But other than maybe 1 or 2 of the flowers, I felt there was enough space that I wasn't going to get the green ink on the flower area. I have just a few more leaves to finish. If you've never used stencils before, I find the easiest way to clean them is to run them under tap water. Most inks that I use, it simply rinses right off. Now it's my favorite part, removing the stencil to see the finished result. I love how this turned out. The 2 different green colors on the leaves look so pretty. Next, I'll add some gold watercolor splatter to the background. I selected one of the lighter gold paint colors. This is a quick and easy way to add beautiful detail to your card. I'll set that aside to dry. You can see all that beautiful shine. The next step is to pop up all of the leaves and flowers. I'm only popping up a few of the flowers, but I do like the look of the leaves popped up. I did speed up this portion quite a bit as I'm going through one leaf at a time and slowly curling up the edge of the leaves. It takes a little extra time to do this, but I think the end result is worth it. I know Waffle Flower has other dies with images you can pop up. This is the first one I've used, and I really like how it looks. Once that's finished, I'll put glue on the back side and layer this piece on some dark green cardstock. I'm making sure to get glue along the very outside edge and some of the areas on the inside, just not on the portion of the leaves that are popped up. Then I'll carefully press that piece onto the dark green cardstock. Normally I would put ATG tape on the back to adhere my card front onto a card base, but this time I'm using glue so I don't crush all of those leaves I just popped up. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Aloha. I used Deck the Halls ink color on some light green cardstock, and I cut out the sentiment using Waffle Flower's Nesting Rounded Rectangles die set. I used the next size up die, the same dark green cardstock to cut out the layer. I'll adhere the two pieces together with some glue, trying to make sure to get it centered. Then I'll flip over this piece, put some thin foam dimension on the back side. I'll make sure to get good coverage. Then I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment slightly more toward the top of the card. With all of the pretty gold splatter, I decided not to add any bling. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. I really like how this card turned out. The colors look so pretty on the craft cardstock, and I love the look of dimension from all of the popped up leaves and flowers. Now here's another look at the 4 cards I made using some new products from Waffle Flower. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. I'm also participating in a fun blog hop from Waffle Flower. For more information and inspiration, you can head over to my blog, and I do have a link for my blog in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.